Well, it's that time of the year again. Minnesota finally decided to be Minnesota, getting some real snow for once. It's been a pretty wimpy winter so far. Gotten down to about 25, 30 below a little bit here and there, but it's not that much snow. We're finally get some snow, and I love to go outside and do a little bushcraft. And today I got to take down a shelter. You can't see, it's a little off camera right now, but I'm gonna build a shelter, take down one, and just get a big long, like 6-foot LongFire going in this real wet stuff. Try to use just the Condor Moonshiner for that, and yeah, enjoy. Well, now that I got enough logs for about, I don't know, 2 hours, something like that, for about a 6-foot LongFire, now I'm gonna go collect some natural tinder and whatnot, and I'm just gonna use the Moonshiner and a ferro rod. It's kind of the basic thing that I use, ferro rod out here. And it's much harder when you don't bring tinder with you, and when it's wet snow like this, and you just have wet tinder, you gotta be decent with the ferro rod or making feather sticks, and so we'll see what we gotta do. All right, so in case you're wondering why I'm doing this on my knees like this, I have the phone in the shelter because it's pretty wet, sticky snow out here. I don't really want to ruin my phone, which I record with. But so far, it's just a little light batoning, processing a little bit of wood, just to get enough dry stuff. This is a perfect example of why sometimes you actually do have to baton. It's kind of stupid, but everything had been so wet. It actually rained and then froze overnight, and so everything is super wet on the exterior, and there's no way in heck I'm hauling a hatchet out here. This is about as big as weight as I want to haul out here if I want to have a good time. And so just using this now, I'm going to see how this knife feather sticks. I've practiced with it plenty of times. It's not my first time, but I've never done it with elm. Elm is a pretty twisty wood, so I'm kind of curious how this is going to work. I don't know what kind of elm this is. I'm in Minnesota, so maybe there's only 1 or 2 kinds that grow around here. But elm is a terribly twisty wood. I was gonna be surprised if it feather stick pretty good. And I don't need perfect feathers, I'm just starting a fire, but I do need fine enough feathers to light with a fire steel. Unless I want to cheat and use the birch bark. Which in Minnesota, there's birch bark everywhere. It's hard to go places that don't have birch. It's kind of like how down south, it seems like most of you folks have a lot of cedar. We don't have as much cedar here, but we do have a lot of birch. And you saw maybe in my time lapse there that I found a polypore. A lot of times you can spark into those. Those are everywhere on birch trees around here. They're not hard to find at all. But if you're just going for a quick feather stick, looks like that was pretty easy to do with the Bushlore, or with the Moonshiner, rather. I know you can't really see this. I can't angle the camera any different, but I'm going to try to light it up with the fire steel. Everything's wet. Everything is cold. throws decent sparks. I don't know if you can see that, but they're pretty good. Yeah, that wasn't too hard. Normally, I'd have a lot more stuff ready to go, but I'm not in a dire situation. It's not hard for me to get a fire started right now. But yeah, I just thought I'd take you along, build a little LongFire. There it is. There's the Condor Moonshiner. You should go out and get one. Looks like the sun decided to come out for a little bit. Clouds have gone away. One thing I like about this over like any flat grind knife is, since it is a convex grind, it definitely digs in deeper and it's smoother to pull through the wood. It's definitely deeper, there's no doubt about it. I don't know how much longer I can stand here. This fire is getting really hot, but this digs in a lot better, but it's not a Scandi. In fact, if I compare this knife to the mini Bushlore, the mini Bushlore bites about twice as deep. Now this is a small knife and I have a lot of control over it, but as far as the initial bite, and maybe it is because it's a little smaller, but it just bites in a lot deeper. It's a lot more controllable, but you really can't hack with a knife like this. Just for small projects, fire starting and things like that. When it comes to hacking and chopping, you know, delimbing, this knife certainly takes it. I mean, it's really not that bad in the hand. The balance is actually, you know, right about the middle. It's a little bit handle heavy. One thing I really like about the knife is the finger trail. Get my finger out of the way. This part right here, you got a little sharpening stop there, and then you got an unsharpened part, and it's about the perfect size for me to choke up on the knife and get some deeper cuts. Like I said, it's no Scandi, but as far as big knives go, I kind of prefer this over the flat grind. Just most of the time I find this more usable. It doesn't baton as well, but I don't know. Condor, I think that you got a win on your hands. I know there's been a lot of people who have had heat treat issues with certain Condors coming out, but I can at least say for this one, outside of a very small portion, if I can get it on camera, it's always hard to get on camera. Yeah, you can kind of see it right there. I had a very small issue, and I've been able to work it out for the most part. It really doesn't bother me, especially on a knife like this. It's not a fine carving knife. Yeah, it can be used for that, but I don't know. This is more of a chopper and general use knife to me. One of the things that I like to do to just compare edges is feather stick, and feather sticks aren't all that practical in some situations. I understand you just don't need them. Around here, I tend to use them a lot, and I got all this maple that's decently dried. It's about the right size. I think I would compare the mini Condor Bushlore to the Moonshiner for feather sticks, and I just want to see which one is easier. Right now I'm using the Corona saw, and there's a million reviews online, so I figured I will not do a review on this one. But yeah, they're right. It's awesome. It's better than the Baco Laplander. It's better than most of the other saws out there. I don't know what it's like compared to the Silky saw, but I certainly prefer this saw because of the price. For how much sawing I do, this blade has been really, really good for greenwoods and dead hardwoods, things like that. Most of it's getting used on oak at the moment. That's what I've been using it on, and I really like this saw. Super affordable. But let's just do a couple splits. of this maple and make sure that's something I can use. It's not too punky on the inside. Ooh, it's pretty soft. We'll find out. Yeah, it's pretty soft. I think I'm still gonna try it. Jeez, yeah, that's just like rotten. Well, if you've ever made a feather stick before, you know that rotten wood isn't always the choice wood to be using, but I'm gonna compare it. We'll see. When I feather stick, I like to get something that has about a triangle design. And if I'm making really good feather sticks, that design seems to make more sense to me. I usually start by clearing it off, getting a flat line, and then I just start working the edges. There's lots of people who do feather sticks different ways. I know with big knives, one way that I see a lot of people making them, if they don't mind making bigger curls, is they'll do the knee brace method like this, and I find that I can make some pretty nice fine curls that are just larger size. Fine curls, but the size overall is big. That's one way, kind of draw, stroke, pull towards you. I've seen some people use a method where they choke up on the knife like this and kind of pull towards themselves. And I don't like knife methods that cause you to cut towards yourself. I don't mind using the knife like this, but when you're going towards yourself, I don't know. If it's not necessary, I don't do it. So just playing around. If I want to finish this guy off here. So just for a general feather stick, it's not the best, it's not the worst, but I find only when I already have a fire going is when I make really good feather sticks. Most of the time I'm just playing around, so I think that's a fair representation. Like I said, I always like to flatten it out. And the advantage of this little guy is, first of all, it has somewhat of a micro bevel. So it's not a true Scandi, but it's closer to the Scandi. And it's just sharper overall. It's a thinner knife, it's sharper, it's more controllable. But from what I'm seeing from these feathers, I can start either feather stick on fire just as easily with the Moonstalker or this little Bushlore mini. This wood is so spalted, but you get an idea. It's not hard to make long feathers. You can make tiny feathers with it too. Let's see. So it's a pretty decent little knife. Actually, I really like the combination going in the woods with a mini Bushlore and the Moonstalker. These two together are pretty decent. Just for a little size comparison, that little mini Bushlore is about the size of the handle of this, but weight-wise, if I put these together, that's about the weight of a hatchet. So this, to me, makes sense for the kind of things that I need. If I'm just processing a little bit of wood here and there, this works just fine.